Hey, Bastich B for 64K, and welcome to episode 10 of Shoot 'em Up Decades. And welcome back. If you've never watched this show before, I take a look at 3 different shoot 'em ups from 3 different decades. I review them and tell you why I like them. So let's not waste any more time and head on back to the 1980s. Satan's Hollow was released in the arcades in 1982 by Bally Midway and was a fixed screen shooter where you have to face off against the devil himself. This style of game was all the rage in the late 70s to early 80s before the horizontal and vertical shoot 'em up genres really took off. This was what shooters were. Your objective is to build a bridge across a moat of lava which leads to Satan's castle. You have to grab pieces of the bridge on the left side of the screen and take them over to the right and piece it together to form the entire bridge. All the while you are being attacked by the devil's gargoyles, who as the game progresses get more and more deadly, originally just trying to kamikaze themselves into you, or lobbing down spears, but later throwing exploding eggs and are even able to destroy your bridge as you're trying to make it, and steal your extra lives Gallagher style. You can blast back though from your ship and have a limited force field, which can stop their spears and fry them if they get too close to you. It needs time though to recharge. If you manage to get the bridge built, you zoom off to the second screen facing off against Satan himself in a one-on-one versus shootout style. If he's defeated, your guns to your ship get upgraded and the game loops, with lots of additions constantly being added to the gameplay to make it pretty interesting, from larger bridges to build to more cunning enemies and fire-breathing devil heads. The game's cabinet itself was a modified Tron creation, hence it uses the same flight stick controller as that game. I had this originally on my Commodore 64 as well and played it a ton. It was a pretty excellent conversion and came out just over a year after the arcade and was the only home port officially released. It's still a really great arcade game to slap on if you have 5 to 10 minutes to spare and see how far you can get. The gameplay itself might seem relatively simple, but it's very hard to put down once you get the flow of its awesome action.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Xbox 360 シューターコレクションスペシャル。
And now on over to the 90s for one of the best decades for shoot 'em up games. Gekirinden was released in 1995 in the arcades, developed and published by Taito on their F3 system arcade board, which also hosted Elevator Action Returns and Darius Gaiden Silverhawk amongst many other greats. The game itself was actually programmed by a host of ex-Toplan staff members who moved over to Taito after the closure of that once classic shoot 'em up company folded in 1994. The story is a troublemaking robot steals a newly developed time machine and attempts to jump around time, destroying human history. You can choose one of 6 different pilots, 3 in 1-player mode and 3 in 2-player mode, to jump through time and destroy him and his henchmen from disrupting the flow of time. The game overall is a pretty standard vertical scroller, with multiple characters to choose from, each with their own unique shot types. You have 2 main weapons which you can switch between, and a complement of smart bombs to nuke anyone in your surrounding area. What's interesting about this game, especially for an arcade release, is how insanely easy it is. It ramps up later, but the first few levels you jump through time are a walk in the park. Maybe it is a way to entice new players to an otherwise really difficult genre to master, but nevertheless, at least the first 2 levels of its 5 time zones to jump to are easy, so if you want a shooter that actually gives you a chance to learn its mechanics and not spam that credit button, then this is a great starter game for this style. Music and sound effects are very satisfying and were done partly by Zuntata, Taito's classic house band, so you know the quality is really great. The graphics are pretty good without being original at all. You've literally seen everything this game has to offer visually 1,000 times before, but it's still done in a satisfying manner with solid gameplay and great Truxton-style bomb effects, and a dial back in terms of difficulty with borderline bullet hell gameplay. Its relative obscurity though make it a really interesting shooter footnote to explore, coupled with the reduced difficulty make it a really easy one if you're new to exploring this genre of gaming. And now on over to the 2000s for our final game. Crisis Wing was originally released in 2020 by Past Lives Productions on the PC, but the game is available on all modern consoles, and I'm playing the Xbox Series X version here for this review. It's a traditional throwback to toe-plan style vertical shoot-em-ups of the 90s. This game in particular is very much in the Truxton mold. There is zero story in this game, just start and shoot everything. It's very much jump in and play, instant gameplay. Your ship can pick up 3 different weapon types indicated by the green, blue and red orbs, each one giving a different new shot, from the addition of powerful forward shooting missiles to a concentrated spread shot to a much wider full screen spread with a bit less power. As per usual, you also have smart bombs, which are very reminiscent of Truxton's skull effect as you destroy all the enemies on screen. In terms of backgrounds and enemies, the game is a little bit bland. There's nothing too interesting, even though everything is animated pretty good. I particularly like the subtle glow effect over all the pixel art. It gives it a very slight CRT effect and looks really cool. The music is extremely good. I just love the rocking tunes. It's very much in a 90s style arcade flavor with very satisfying sound effects as well. The main game is 7 stages long and then loops, and is both tough and easy at the same time. Like older toe-playing games, the stages are fairly easy once you have the right weapon, but the bosses are tough, and that's when things get very bullet helly in nature. It's a game where I was constantly getting a little bit further each time I played it, and that to me is always a sign of a great balance. The game can also be played in 2-player mode and has a host of other fun modes such as time attack and boss rush. Both are definitely worth trying out to change up the gameplay. Overall, Crisis Wing delivers straight to the point, no nonsense shooter action in early 90s mold, and if you're a fan of these shooters or just straightforward shooter action without the need for window dressing, then definitely check it out. And that's it. That's the end of another episode. Thanks for joining me, Bastich B at 64K. I hope you had a good time. And if you can please like and subscribe, that'll be greatly appreciated. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.